Hello. Hi everyone in Goa. Welcome to OPTICKS. This is an art project by myself, Daniela, Paulis, the artist, and radio amateur Jan van Mavelijk, who is sitting right in front of me here at the Dwingelo Radio Telescope in the Netherlands. Today we will present a recorded version of the show. Unfortunately, there is no moon today. We are not able to do the live transmission. Jan will tell you a bit more about it in a minute. So we decided to give you a bit of a flavor of the project and explain what it is about and how your images will return from the moon. We would like to thank you about the submissions. We received hundreds of wonderful images, and we will select 10 of them that will make the journey to the moon and back in the next few weeks. So I leave the floor to Jan.
Okay, hello, thank you. Yes, we are here in the radio telescope in Dwingelo. It's a 25-meter dish, and I will show you around with the camera in a few moments to show you what we do here and how it looks here, and what we do during those optic events. We collaborate with other radio amateurs, someone in England, someone in Brazil, someone in Italy. They have big dishes and they send those images in a special way. You will see how we do that to the moon, and we will receive them with our big dish, and then those very, very weak signals that return from the moon are being recreated into an image. And the moon bounce, well, Daniela will talk about it later a bit, but the technical part of it, it's very difficult because the moon is very far away, 400,000 kilometers. So you need to bridge 400,000 kilometers 2 times, and then the moon is a piece of rock. It's not metal, it's not polished, it's all rocky, it's dusty, and only 7% of the energy, of our radio energy, returns. And because it's a globe, it is scattered in all directions. So that's very, very difficult. And when you put this in a figure, the total attenuation you get over the path from Earth to the moon and back is a 1 with 27 zeros. So that's amazing. And still it's possible. With much smaller dishes than we use here, but when you want to do images via the moon, you really need at least one such big dish as here, because doing images is very difficult and it requires rather high signal strengths. Well, that's about the first introduction about the technique of moon bounce, and I think I will now do the tour of the dish. I will change my camera view. Let's see if that's possible. Yes, there we go.
I would like to just briefly explain why we changed the camera view. I would like to briefly explain why we do moon bounce for the story of light. As you noticed in the program, the event is called OPTICKS, which is the well-known essay by Isaac Newton on light, refraction and reflection. And in the project, my idea was to use radio waves as light waves. Of course, radio waves and light waves are the same thing in a way, and again, Jan will tell you a bit more later about the scientific difference between the two. And so I would like the public in Goa to think of images reflected by the moon just as like a ray of light that are crossing the cosmos and reflected by the moon's surface, by its rocks, its craters, and returning back to Earth, just like after going through a prism, like in the text that you just heard. Okay, Jan is ready for the paneling across the cabin. Here is myself positioned in this wonderful cabin of the Dwingelo Radio Telescope. And here are Amy in the stripy t-shirt and the core at the back. There are two radio amateurs from the Cameras organization, which allows artists, including myself, to use the dish for this interesting experiments. Of course, the dish is a very sophisticated instrument and requires several people to be run and to make this project possible. We also have some interesting equipment. Jan, maybe you can say something about this transmitter. You're a bit the expert.
Yeah. I hope you hear me now. I'm a bit away from the microphone, but I guess this will work. Yeah, what you now see is the receiving panel. You see all kinds of cables, and from this place, the cables enter the dish, and of course the antennas are in the focal point of the dish, very high above our heads. But this is more or less the entrance of the dish, of where the radio signals come in.
Okay, the tour continues. We won't stop on each element of the sophisticated equipment, of course, but this should give you a flavor of what this cabin is like. The dish is also a national monument, and that's why many parts of these instruments have left untouched from the time when it was used back in the late 50s. Today it's a very windy day here in the Netherlands, so the dish has been tied and put in a position that makes it less vulnerable to the wind, to the high wind. So even if the moon condition would have been optimal, we wouldn't have been able to do the moonbounce today because of the wind. The dish is a delicate instrument, and in any case, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to do the live transmission. Some leftover from the Christmas celebration. An Italian cake that some of you might know, the panettone, that we just ate for celebrating the New Year. And we finished this nice view of the cabin with the QSL cards, which are the postcards that ham radio operators exchange every time they have a contact with each other. So actually, this has been, these QSL cards have been very influential in my project in optics. I got very inspired by them and decided to turn the project into a global mail art event, meaning that people from all around the world submit the images for the live moonbounce, and at the end of the performance, I print the images as postcards and mail them back to the original sender. So it's a wonderful way to stay connected with people from all around the world. Okay, thanks, Jan. We continue with a short introduction to the project, and I would like to tell you a bit more about this technology. Some of you might be already familiar with the moonbounce technology. This image really visualizes what happens during moonbounce. We have two stations, we have several collaborators in Brazil, in Italy, in England, and more countries that work with us for every live performance. We have one of those stations transmitting the images to the moon. The moon reflects the radio waves or light waves, as I like to think of it. And the Dwingelor dish receives the data back. So the reflected images are usually very corrupted because of the long journey. The technology was used for the first time by the US Navy during the Cold War, starting with the end of the Second World War as an espionage tool. So it's an historical technology, but what we did with this project was quite groundbreaking. In fact, we used it for the first time with visual data, which was quite a challenging thing to do for radio amateurs. who are usually using the technology mostly for Morse code and voice communication. So when I asked the camera's team to collaborate with me, the idea was to create together a live performance during which we would send to the moon and back some images. And this is the first image that made it to the moon. It's Jan's dish. And on the left-hand side, you see his call sign and the call sign of the other station receiving. And this was the result of the very first live transmission. So the technology fortunately improved until we started receiving much nicer images, and this is pretty much the quality that we mastered so far. So the loss of data is an interesting aspect of these images, in my opinion, because it really shows the traces of the long journey and the reflection of the moon, of course, which is not a very good reflector. The title, this is the title of the project, Reflected by the Moon Surface. The original background was white. The title was inspired by this well-known essay. I think you've heard some excerpt of this book earlier on, read by Rushi. And this is just a well-known image that somehow visualizes the effect of refraction. So this is the somehow the conceptual background behind the project. We use a software which is the digital version of the slot scan television, which is a technology used in early NASA space missions, like this one, which was done in 1963, is the Phase 7 space mission. And you can see in the image the lines of the transmission. So the image used to build up line by line by line, just like what happens now in our live performance. At this point, we have some images that I would like to show you that we moonbounced during the live event for Global Astronomy Month last year in April. So again, I will pass the screen off to Jan, who is going to make a demonstration of what happens during a live transmission of these images. We, as I said at the beginning, we received more than 100 images. So Jan and I will sort them out and decide on the basis of their artistic interest and their visual qualities which one will make it to the moon and back. As you can see, the image should be not too dark or detailed, otherwise all the data will get lost. So we will make a selection also based on this idea. And this is Buzz Aldrin going back to the moon again.
And it's a picture that was on the cover of Life magazine.
And you can still see live, moonbounced live words. So it's an historical image. We really moonbounce a lot of different images. Every time we make the open call, people send all kinds of things, from landscapes to well, portraits, selfies, or even artwork. So we moonbounce all kinds of things, including Mondrians, paintings, the Mona Lisa, or well, so a lot of art made it to the moon already. And we finished this short demonstration with an artwork by an Italian artist called Gianni Piacentini, who made this work especially for the moonbounce. And as you can see, the colors are, because of their definition, look really very, well, still very defined after the long journey. If you have questions, please prepare them. I will answer them on Skype on the 17th of January during the 16th of January during the presentation of this video at the Science Center. Okay, thanks, Jan. We'll move on. I think I have some more images to show you about this project. As I said, I usually print the moonbounced images at the end of the performance and send them back to the people who submitted them. So this is a collection of images from Global Astronomy Month 2015. This was one of the postcards that we received, and at the back I write a message which is personalized, personal to each sender. So each card is really unique. In fact, even if we transmit to the moon the same image 10 times in a row, it will always return different. So it's really a unique piece. These are images of some of the stations that we use for our project. This is from our collaborator Bruce Alas in Brazil. And this antenna is on top of a tall building in São Paulo. It's a 20-story building.
Yeah, something like that. Very high.
Very high.
Excellent position.
And this is from our collaborator in Italy, Nando Pellegrini, who has a very large antenna, a 10 meters dish. And to finish, I would like to say that there is already one image on the moon. It's been left by Charles Duke, astronaut Charles Duke, in 1972, and it's been there ever since. It's the portrait of his family, and by now perhaps the image is completely corroded. There might be just a white page with a plastic bag, but so there is an actual image also on the moon beside the images that we keep sending by radio waves. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you for following our short presentation, and I hope we will be able to transmit your images very soon, and you will receive a postcard from me wherever you are in the world. Thank you.